Alright, so I just want to show you what we're going to do till the end of the year, what's in the cycle, and what's in November. Alright, so last term we did gases exchange, and I'm toying with the idea of putting it in the exam. You know what it is? I'm just worried that I don't get to finish that last topic. So closer to the time, if we don't have any more other COVID things, then I can let you know. Alright, we're now going to revise circulation. That will be in the exam. We are then going to go on to the revision of ecology. It's in your books. Quick. Okay? But that leads us on to, other way around, population ecology. Okay? So that leads us on to population ecology, which is a topic that we actually do in matric, and it's a little bit different to ecology. And I've got some things there, and we've got time now. Because normally I still do, last year I was still doing circulation for 4 weeks this term. So now I've got time to do other things, and actually do lots of little things in class. Not lots, I mean, we're not going to have a fun lesson every day, do something different. Alright, but then, that's the end of your book, and then I want to do DNA and inheritance. So you may remember at the beginning of the term, the year, that I said if we get time, we're going to do this section, and it will be separate notes, because I think you need to know something about DNA. Has anyone ever read anything or dealt with the topic of DNA? Okay, so there we go. Your exam, November, if we decide to keep gases exchange, then I will. I want to get through all of this, I hope I can, but your cycle on the 6th of October is going to be circulation to where we get. So we're going to see, and I will let you know closer to the time. Okay, taking this down. Alright, so now what I'd like to do is to go through the whole of circulation. Who can remember everything about circulation? Who can remember 50%? Are we really under 50? Okay.
Now we need to study it too. We haven't studied it.
Okay, so are you happy with the fact that I'm now going to revise it with you? And you may, guys at the back, you may take down this drawing if you want. But I've actually done this on Google Classroom. I did it with the document camera and I was drawing on a page. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Alright, but I'm going to go through everything again. And then, hey, for the next couple of lessons, you are going to do those worksheets. We will mark them in class and you're going to do them properly. The first one is a single, it's on Google Classroom as well. It's the labeling of the heart, inside and outside. And the second, the stapled one that I've given you, is an old test, but I fixed it up. I made it a bit different. Alright, to give you an idea of what kind of stuff we can ask you later. Yes? Okay. Can I rub this off?
No.
I'm going to put it on Google Classroom as well.
Okay, then fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alright, so what we can do now is draw a schematic diagram to show the structure of the heart. Okay, so if I'm standing in front of you, okay, which side of my heart? Okay, hang on. Okay, there's two sides to the heart. What side of the heart is this side?
Your left side.
Left, but it's on the right of the board of the page. And what type of blood does it transport? Left side of the heart transport? Oxygenated, so we use red. Okay? So I'm just drawing it very schematically. Okay, oxygenated blood. And the right side of the heart deals with deoxygenated blood, right hand side, left hand side. So for revision, you can take this down. Jog your memory. Okay?
Now, did you not need to start the projector or anything?
I have.
Oh, okay.
I just need to watch, because after 20 minutes apparently it switches off and then I got to start it again. So if the blue light goes off. Okay. Sorry? It's just recording what I'm doing and then I'll upload the video onto Google Classroom for the people who are at home. And
It's a camera.
yeah, it's recorded. It's like a video camera. Yeah. It can record pages or up. Alright, so now, what were the chambers called? The top chambers of the heart are called Loud. 2 more. Atria. So 1 atrium. So this is the left atrium. Okay? On the left side of my body, but on the right side of your page. Alright, and this on where I'm pointing to now is the
Right
atrium. So the atria are at the top. A over what? What are the chambers at the bottom?
Ventricle.
A over V. Alright, so on this side is the left ventricle. And here is the right ventricle. And I know we're not doing everything on this diagram, but once we've gone through those worksheets and everything, and I'll use another lesson just to go through the rest, and then you must do the worksheets.
Okay.
Alright, so now, the reason why I want to keep gaseous exchange in is because the lungs are involved in as well, in this whole process. So, why am I drawing the lungs and the heart together? What do the lungs provide? Oxygen. So the lungs oxygenate the blood. Okay. Now, this is schematic, but there's actually 2 blood vessels that take oxygenated blood away from each lung.
No.
So if you remember, you breathe in air with oxygen into the air sacs, and then how does the oxygen move across into the capillaries? Diffusion, and then what moves the other way? CO2, and you're going to breathe that out. Alright? It's all about diffusion. Shh. Okay, so arteries. Okay, the main types of blood vessels. So we're just going to try and tie it all together. Arteries transport blood away from the heart. Arteries transport blood away from the heart. A for away. Okay? And I've written in red because they transport
Blood.
what type?
Oxygenated.
Oxygenated. Always?
Red.
Do all arteries transport oxygenated blood?
No.
Okay, so we'll go and look at that again. What are the other blood vessels? Veins. Veins transport what type of blood? Deoxygenated. I'm drawing right in blue. They transport blood
To the heart.
to the heart or towards the heart. Remember me saying VW, Volkswagen?
Yes, we do, ma'am.
Okay, good. Then what are the other blood capillaries, the little ones called?
What does the Volkswagen have to do with the heart?
VW. Veins take blood towards the heart.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Alright, so now we've said that 2 blood vessels transport oxygenated blood away from the lungs and towards the heart. So what are they? Arteries or veins?
Arteries.
Can you close the door, please?
Ma'am,
But then corona gets stuck in the classroom.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to close the door.
There's circulation.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
And it's hot in here.
Okay.
Pretty.
Alright, so 2 blood vessels transport oxygenated blood away from the lungs towards the heart. So are they arteries or veins? Yes, but they're the only veins that transport oxygenated blood. And because they're transporting blood from the lungs to the heart, what veins are they?
Pulmonary.
Yes. Okay, this class is a little bit more awake. So pulmonary veins.
Yeah.
Okay, pulmonary means from the heart, from the lungs or towards the lungs. In fact, with COVID, they're finding that people are getting blood clots in their lungs. So that's called a pulmonary embolism. Pulmonary lungs, or fluid in the lungs. I was reading this big article yesterday about these molecules that they're finding are elevated in the body, which are normally not so high, and now they're realizing that they can use medications that we already have. So there's one team of doctors, researchers, they've got this whole theory about how COVID works, and now they're targeting medicines that will help suppress that molecule. I can't remember what it's called. It sounded like Kardashian, and they called it something storm, that there's too many of these molecules, like what happens during some diseases, And we need to bring those down so that we don't get fluid in the lungs and damage to blood vessels and that, which is what COVID does. Just can't remember the name. Okay. All right, so pulmonary veins take blood towards the left atrium, but they do not enter the left atrium at the top there. All right. Our lungs are on the side. So here are the lungs. So there's two pulmonary veins entering the left side of the heart, and the other two enter behind. Do you remember that? Wait. Do you remember me saying that? That will help you with the diagram. So there's two entering from the left lung over here. Don't draw this in now. And there's another two, the right lung's over here, but they are going to enter behind. There. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
They enter behind the, well, this one from the side and this one behind the heart. Not like I've drawn there. So when you start looking at pictures, you're not going to see four lines at the top.
Are they big?
Yeah, so from left and right lung, there's two blood vessels from either lung. The lung is here and here. These ones enter the left atrium behind. These ones enter from the side. Got it? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Alright, so we're not going to put that on here because it's just a schematic diagram. Okay, so now the atria contract and the blood gets pushed into the left ventricle. And there is a valve between the left atrium and ventricle. What is it called?
On a bicuspid.
Okay, bicuspid valve. It's also called, beginning with an M.
The mitral.
Yeah, I haven't got that in my notes. It's like an anatomical term. Okay, so if I was in the atrium and there's a little opening to the ventricle, how many flaps would that valve have? Two. Bi. Like a little trap door. So here's the blood in the atrium. There's the valve. So my hand, the trap door opens. The blood goes into the ventricle, but then they close. The valves close. They can only open down. Do you remember that? Because they're held in place by, remember, tendinous cords. Okay, so they open down. Blood goes into ventricle, and because those are now closed, goes out the heart. Remember? Okay. So, the largest blood vessel that takes blood away from the left atrium is called the aorta, the biggest artery. But in fact, it branches up and around the heart. If you look at your pictures, you'll see that. This is schematic. Okay, so leaving the left ventricle, the aorta transports blood away from the heart, and then that's going to branch into lots of arteries to everywhere. Top of your body, arms, legs, top. Arms, head, shoulders, legs, trunk, everywhere. Lots of arteries branching all over, and eventually tiny little arteries. They're actually called arterioles. Not in your notes. Tiny little arteries branch even more into very small blood vessels called, yeah. They are very thin walled, we'll get to that later. And they are so thin walled, they allow for diffusion. So let's draw some cells here. Okay, and it's not really like the way I'm drawing it, that the red blood becomes blue blood. You just draw it like that. Okay, we're just showing, and it's not really a demarcation between oxygenated and deoxygenated. Okay, but those capillaries are thin walled, so that what can diffuse into the cells? And what else?
CO2. CO2.
Okay, CO2 will diffuse
Out.
out of the cells. Okay, so CO2 will diffuse out of the cells. The cells could need salts. What else will they need? Nutrients like glucose, amino acids, fats, even vitamins and hormones. I'm not going to put all that on. That's the one exercise that I gave you. This is all summing it up. Alright? And then what else can pass out of the cells?
Waste.
Other wastes like excess water, excess salts, etc. Okay. So now, from all over the body, you are capillaries. There are millions of capillaries between every single cell in your body. if you had to peel all the tissue away, you would be a network of capillaries and arteries and veins. Because every single cell is near to a capillary for diffusion. So lots of little capillary beds, we call them capillary beds, they're all going to join up with little veins, and those veins are eventually going to become bigger veins, and then there are two big veins that enter, I haven't got much space here, I'm doing it schematic, okay? There are two big veins which enter the right atrium. The one big vein brings blood back from the top of your body, head, arm and shoulders, and the other one brings back blood from the lower. So what was the one that brings blood back from the lower part of the body called? Inferior vena cava. Okay, inferior vena cava. And they don't join, I'm just drawing it like that. Yes?
Ma'am, you see when you said cells are two nutrients?
Yes.
I mean, CO2 works, but how does that work? No, but like, because you've said that it goes from cells, like the earth. Oh, I see now.
So, things in the blood that the cells need diffuse from high concentration in the blood into the cells. So there'll be lots of cells everywhere. Okay, so everywhere in your body receive oxygen, nutrients, salts, water, vitamins, amino acids, glucose, etc. And then whatever wastes are made, like during cell respiration, CO2 is made, remember? And there might be too much water, too much salt, etc. Then those diffuse from the cells back into the capillaries. It's like an exchange. There is gaseous exchange, O2, CO2, but other things also move across. And then all these capillaries join, like here, and then the little veins are bringing lots of deoxygenated blood away from cells all over your body, becoming major veins going back to the right atrium. But there are two major veins that enter the right atrium. They're not joined. There's the big one that brings blood from the lower part of the body, inferior vena cava, and there's the big vein that brings blood back from the top of your body, and it's called superior vena cava. So we'll look at a proper picture later. The one that I've given you, you'll figure it out from there. Alright, so why do we say superior and inferior? Well, we are upright, we are bipedal, so everything above is superior, everything below is inferior. But if I have to walk like my dog, this is facing the ground, ventral, and this is dorsal. Have you dorsal fin of a whale?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so ventral, dorsal, superior, inferior, but then you even get anterior and back. That's the back part, yes. And in a dog, it's anterior and posterior. They don't have superior and inferior because they don't stand upright. So that's the kind of terminology you find in books. Okay, so now the deoxygenated blood has entered the right atrium. So the atria contract and the blood is then forced through the valve, and that valve is called the tricuspid valve. Okay, I'm running out of space. So how many flaps does it have? Three. 1, 2, 3. Like a trap door, you know, those sort of space, you know, round, circular, opening the door, and then there's, you know what I mean? Okay, don't worry. Okay, so there's 3 little flaps. If I had 3 hands, those 3 little flaps open down, and the blood passes through into the right ventricle, then those flaps close, and then the blood is forced out of the ventricle in the, and I've really run out of space, which is the major blood vessel that takes blood away from the right ventricle.
Pulmonary artery.
Yes. Okay, you just rub that out. So you've got tricuspid valve. When the ventricles contract, the blood now passes into this blood vessel, which branches and takes deoxygenated blood back to the lungs so you can get rid of the CO2. So, because it's taking blood away from the heart, it is called the away from the heart, artery, and because it's taking blood to the lungs, we say pulmonary. Okay, so there's a left and a right pulmonary artery. So, we've completed the circuit. green pink. Okay, so these two are the exceptions. Because normally arteries transport oxygenated blood always away from the heart. So they mostly transport oxygenated blood, and veins transport blood towards the heart. But here we've got veins transporting blood to the heart, but it's oxygenated. An artery transporting blood away from the heart, but it's deoxygenated. Okay, remember now. I think we must do that Kahoot again. You know what happened? Do you remember you did the quiz? And then I said, redo the quiz. Yes? Yes. Okay, and I said I was going to choose the best. The second one didn't give me your email address. So I couldn't choose the best. Okay, but don't worry, I didn't hold it against you. Okay? So it just became very, very small. Alright, so now, I don't even know if I counted it actually. Okay, so we have completed the circuit. There's just a few more things. What is the wall that divides the heart? The septum, like in your nose. And we have got double circulation because we have a separate right-hand side that transports what type of blood? Deoxygenated, and a left-hand side that transports oxygenated blood. So we're not like frogs where they have a hole between the two ventricles and there's mixing of blood, and then it's not as efficient. Okay, we've got a separate double circulatory system. The one part is dealing with deoxygenated blood and the other with oxygenated blood. But there's something else that we can add here. So when the blood is transported, the deoxygenated blood from heart to lungs and back to heart, we call that pulmonary circulation. I think that's on page 62. I've just got a lot here now. And then when the blood is transported from the heart to all the body cells and back to the heart, it is called, so let's look at the camera, taking blood to all your systems and your organs and your, do you remember systemic? Systemic circulation. Do you remember this? Okay. Alright, so we've got a double circulatory system with two circuits. We've got pulmonary circulation, deoxygenated blood from heart to lungs, gets oxygenated back to heart. We've got the systemic circulation, transporting blood from heart to cells, deoxygenated blood back to the heart, from all the systems. Okay, am I done? I think so. I can't remember. I think I've mentioned everything. Sorry? Yeah, then I'm done. Yes.
Yo, can I